Hey guys, welcome to tutorial number 4. In this tutorial I'm going to configure tenant. Tenant is nothing but is a logical container. Based on tenant we can create a separate department. We can give, let's say for example, HR department, they could have a separate tenant. The business department, they could have a separate tenant. So if you see this diagram right here, so if I create tenant A, let's say for this is for HR, and tenant B, let's say this is for business. So each tenant they will have their individual private layer 3 constraint, which is called sometimes BRF, or also for context section in Cisco, and also they will have individual bridge domain and subnet and EPG. So by default, if I go like Cisco ACI for right here, if I go like tenant, so by default Cisco already gave us like 3 tenant. It's called command, infra and management. Management tenant is gonna like all the command role for the management prospecting. The infra is a stand for infrastructure, and command, like if you have like DHCP or DNS, that's the for command thing all the devices gonna share, and that's the command one. But if you wanted to create your own tenant for custom ones, the way you're gonna do it, click in the tenant and you say the add tenant. That's what I'm gonna say Northwell underscore tenant. Northwell, I'm gonna say HR, something like that. And you can give like specific description if it's for temporary or where is the HR location, and you can give also a tag if you want. And if you have a like monitoring policy, but you can choose the default. And security domain, there's a default one, security domain, but if you wanted to create your like security domain, you can click this plus symbol and you can attach over here. So once you have HR and you say submit, there you go, it created your first tenant. So if you see in the left side, it's called tenant HR. So if you see the like logical constraint of tenant, after tenant you have to have your private layer 3 BRF, it's called partial routing forwarding, or this private sometimes it's called context. So if you have a like HR tenant, then you have to have next to the private or context or BRF. After BRF you have to create your bridge domain, and after bridge domain all your server is gonna hook up with the bridge domain, and bridge domain is gonna act as a default gateway. But think something like that in Cisco layer 3 switch or 6500 switch like SPI. So bridge domain is contain multiples VLAN. It's not a one VLAN. So one bridge domain can hold multiple VLAN. Then bridge domain is going to attach with the EPGs like endpoint grouping, which I'm going to show you in the later tutorial or video. So this is the way you can configure your tenant. So next video what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the BRF, what is the first BRF, and I will walk you through the entire process how you can hook up with your BRF with the tenant. Then after I will configure bridge domain, how you can hook up your bridge domain to the BRF. It's a layer 3 boundary, and also the last thing I'm going to configure EPG, the endpoint grouping. So now if you notice in over there, like up there before I had a command infrastructure and management, now new tenant over here added is called Northwell HR. So if you want to add another tenant, just click over here. If you say like IT infrastructure, is going to show up over here. If you know what another tenant for data center is going to show up over here. So each tenant will have their own constraint. So let's say for I have a HR tenant, Northwell HR, they will not have a communication with the infrastructure tenant, which is separate business identity or business entity. You could consider that way. So this is a pretty much up to that for how we can create tenant. But if you click all this starter, this is like self-explanation that I don't have to explain anything and I don't have to show you anything like dashboard, policy, operation. If you go through, this is like self-explanation, so nothing is fancy is going on there. So next video I'm gonna create BRF or context, or Cisco call private as well.